Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, hosted by Aaron Locks and sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. Join us live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as Aaron sits down with coaches, recreation professionals, and industry leaders to discuss youth sports, athlete development, coaching excellence, and the positive impact sports have on young people and communities. Tune in for expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical strategies to help young athletes succeed. In this episode, George Minose discusses the power of youth sports, effective coaching, and how sports help young athletes build confidence, resilience, and life skills that extend beyond the game.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Youth Sports Mastery Show. I'm your host, Aaron Locks, and once again, I'm excited, not only because I have an amazing guest, but we get to talk everything youth sports. And what else do you want to talk about, right? I want to do a quick introduction of George in a minute. I want to tell you how excited I am because he is with the United States Sports University, formerly the United States Sports Academy, and we're going to talk a lot today. If you are a youth sports parent who's looking to maybe parent, volunteer, coach, or someone interested in coaching, being involved in youth sports, you're absolutely going to want to hear this. So, Sherry, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and roll the spots, and then after that, we'll dig in and we'll get a full introduction.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of parks and recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product? Growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move Parks and Rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.
And just like that, we're back. Hey, George, as I think back to our experience working together, which I think realistically kind of flourished during the pandemic, and we can talk a little bit about that and how we work together. But I think the audience needs to know, who is this George guy? So would you talk a little bit about kind of your journey? Let's just start with who you are and what you do, so they get a better idea of why I'm so fired up to have you on the show.
Well, I appreciate it, Aaron. My name is George Minose, and I have multiple titles, but most importantly, I am the Dean of Student Success and Undergraduate Academics at the United States Sports University. I started a continuing education foundation, coursework or service, and that is really where we started focusing on youth sports education, and it has blossomed and grown out of control since we started that. But that was really the foundation of, introduction to coaching, introduction to methodologies, and it's really it has taken off, and I've been very excited to see that grow, and that really kind of sparks even further interest beyond just growing up and being competitive, always in sports, always doing things that, I think most of us have done since day one. Right. Mom and dad taking you to soccer games or football games or whatever it would be. And then but that's kind of where everything got started.
Wow. So your journey, you played sports as a kid. You're probably like me, where you just played with your friends down the street as well. It wasn't just organized sports, but it's kind of a little bit of everything. So as you grew up and now you get into this, how do you go from whatever you do to all of a sudden deciding you want to be this involved in the creation of? I mean, obviously, you doctoral student, you've been doing this a while. I can't even imagine how many years you've been digging into this. Do you want to tell everybody? I know you're only 16 years old, but you've been in it a minute, right?
It's been a very long minute, but I think really it started when I made that first decision. I've always volunteered. I've always been part of athletics since I can't stop. Played college rugby, and I was a pretty decent tennis player growing up and football player. And so I always had my hands in multiple sports. My dad would always say it's better for me to be on a court than in court. So that was.
I love it. Say that one again. Can we frame that? Say it. I love that. I want to make sure we all hear that, because all those Parks and Rec professionals out there, it is so true. Say that word again. I love it.
He always said that it was better for me to be on a court than in court. So
I'm stealing that. Can I steal that?
What absolutely.
You write that one down.
It's George. So it was something that my mom would always get flustered because of the number of events that I had to go to, and, tournaments and whatever the sporting event was. She's the one who did the duty for the most part. And, but that was kind of his motto. And so I can't disagree with it.
Love that quote. That's a keeper, folks. Take it right there. So you go to high school, you go to college, and then how did you get connected with the United States? Again, it was the academy when you first got connected, right? How did that?
It was right around COVID. I coached for several years, multiple sports, basketball, tennis, football, you name it, as a high school coach. And then right around COVID, I was ready for a career change and to pivot into something a little more focused on the sports industry than just being a high school coach. Yeah. So the opportunity came up through some friends and some connections, and the rest is history. I mean, I think we started talking within the first couple of months after I got hired. So COVID was that pitch, and you can talk to some teachers and they'll be like, oh, the kids are different after COVID, but that wasn't the issue at all. I didn't notice a difference. I was just ready for a new challenge in my life.
Yeah. It's funny. They say that through Project Play in Berkeley, we were talking about that kids that went through COVID, it would take about 3 years to academically catch up, right? To coming out of COVID, but it could take up to 8 years to catch up socially and emotionally. But the one thread that seems to be really constant, if kids are playing team sports, it brings it right back down to that 3 years and the impact on that. So what's kind of inspired you? You know, you said you played everything. You're kind of like me. I tell you I'm just a dumb jock and we're just having fun doing this, right? But what was your inspiration? What is your mission in terms of what drives you to do what you do? Because man, I gotta be honest with you, every time I try to track you, and I'm a guy that travels all over the place and doing stuff, but trying to track you, even though you're in one spot, you got a lot going on, man. How do you,
Well,
what,
I think it started with my own kid. So having to be involved with his athletic aspirations when he was growing up.
Okay.
So I didn't coach at that point because I was still coaching at the high school level, and I couldn't handle coaching my own kid. I wasn't very successful at it, and then I was super critical because I thought I knew everything. As a high school coach. So it was best for me to just break away and, enjoy the youth sports as a spectator than it was being involved. But once he was done with youth sports, then I transitioned back into to actually getting my hands dirty in youth sports.
Yeah, that's cool. My son called me this morning as I was driving to work, and he told me, he says, "Dad, I know you said it to me before, but because I'm grandpa, he's got a 3.5-year-old and 1-year-old, and he said, Dad, I knew it, but I didn't know it." And then he said his daughter's in a little class and stuff. He goes, "I just love these kids." I said, "Well, that's good to know. You're supposed to, but it changes your life when you have kids and you go through the journey." And unfortunately, I just gave a talk the other night to some parents. The youth sports journey. Parents, we can't make it amazing for our kids, but we can absolutely ruin it for them, right? I mean, that's part of the process. And I don't want to go too deep into, I tend to get into that space a lot, but I want to talk a lot about coaching. I really believe that what you guys are doing is incredible. I've seen the courses, and I think it's really important in terms of, if you're a youth sports coach out there, we need you, and thank you for your service, right? Please keep doing it. Volunteers, go do it. We're not trying to scare you away. That being said, understanding that there's a lot of resources out there that can help elevate you. And it's not just, my DVDs or books or things on YouTube you can read or whatever, but really it's just about understanding that if you have a clear mission of your goal, which is number one goal in youth sports is to keep the kids safe. And number two is they have so much fun and they learn the fundamentals and the concepts that they want to come back and play next season. That's it, right? Everything else is all byproduct of those two factors. Winning games is part of it. Losing games is part of it. That's the deal. But you guys teach coaches, right? Tell us a little bit more about the university. I really think it's important because probably not a lot of people realize, you guys tell me how long you guys been around, and you got a lot. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot to bring to the table.
We were founded in 72. 73, right after the Olympics, and the founder, Dr. Rosandich, we had such a poor performance in that Olympics that his main goal was and he identified a need that we need to train coaches how to coach. Yeah. And so that was kind of the foundation of this institution. So him and some others got together, and the original campus was up north, like Ohio area, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then they transitioned down to where we are at now later on. But that is kind of like how everything got started, was his recognition of the need to improve coaching from little league to the professional level. So all of our curriculum at that time, and even back in the day before the internet, everything was mail in, and you can complete your courses and get your degrees in coaching. We still have our coaching degrees. Wow. And so you can get a bachelor's in coaching, you can get a master's in coaching from us. And so a lot of it is not the X's and O's that a lot of coaches think they want to know. But it's really the methodologies and understanding the psychology and understanding, different phases of life and their, the human development and all those things, because we shouldn't be asking students, 8-year-olds to be running 10 miles, if you get what I'm saying. So
Oh, they do, yeah.
there's a lot of science to it. And so our coaching degrees have been very popular. Mike Leach, he's a graduate. So we've had several named graduates come through, and you know, 2 of our staff members are Olympians. So you know, they're a big part of the coaching tree. And then obviously a lot of our new slogan that we have for when we rebranded was "We are all athletes here." But really, if you walk through the halls, every single person that is a staff member or a faculty member has some kind of degree of coaching experience or being an athlete at an extremely high level.
Right. Well, the 1972 Olympics, I do remember Munich, and I do remember not just that we didn't do well, but there was a lot going on in 1972, yes. Right? But I will say that it's funny how sports transcends countries, communities. You know, right? It's just it's if you think about it, I don't think there's any better life skill teaching tool than youth sports, and the fact that you're helping. And you guys have done it for so long. And I love under your leadership, I've kind of watched what you guys go going. I'm paying attention. I see what you're doing, you know, and I love because you really are helping realize that, like for me at the National Academy of Athletics, we have an ideology, our talk, teach, play system, but we use proximal play in everything we do. Right. So a child that is 5 years old doesn't go play on a 10-foot hoop because we need them to be able to be proximal play that's challenging enough to keep them interested, but they have to be able to be successful. In this case, like you said, around 10, we got to keep them in that space, right? If they play on a 10-foot hoop and they're 5 years old, they're never going to be able to score. They're going to lose interest. They're going to get frustrated, and they're not going to want to continue to play. Nationally, right now, it's sad that only 5 out of 10 kids actually sign up to play a sport, and out of that, most quit after 2 seasons because it's not fun and it's too much pressure to be successful. So what you're doing is extremely important. And if you're Parks and Recreation, you can take your parent volunteers and somehow connect with George so that those parents could take some of your courses. I think there's a lot of value to that, right, George?
Absolutely. We our courses have been designed for all levels, but they're very, and you hit on it. One of the unique aspects is that not only do we have a large national group of youth coaches, teachers, PE teachers, you know, college coaches, you know, from A to B, everybody involved in the, you know, sports itself. But we have a large international contingency that take our courses. We are known for sending our faculty out across the globe to actually, you know, teach their teachers or their coaches. And, you know, from the youth level all the way up, you know, a couple of years ago, I was fortunate enough to go to Thailand and work with their coaches. And so they have 2 different levels. Really, they have the sports authority, which is very youth oriented, developmental level. And then obviously they have the next level. So we do a lot of work with their sports authority and work with the coaches who primarily work with the youth development coaches. So our reach is pretty, you know, it's pretty big. But if you talk about the common denominator with every country that we've been to, it's always about, the importance of youth sports and development, but not so much a focus on the physical attributes because those are naturally going to develop, but the mental, the social, and those were the key attributes that, you know, that we harped on even when we go, you know, across the globe to teach, you know, other coaches and other organizations.
You know, there's something really cool about that too, as it ties together. You know, we really focus on bringing social emotional development as part of sports. At the National Academy of Athletics and our enrichment programs, our after school programs, or PE, whatever it is, every time we go out there, we're actually okay with the kids failing, right? Like I gave a talk not too long ago and I said, how many of you parents are ready for your child to fail this season? They're excited about it. And they looked at me, I was nuts. And I'm like, no, embrace the suck, man. That's a good thing, right? And
absolutely.
We want them to fail and to go forward. But when you guys teach that, part of what you've got to be focusing on, and we talked a little bit about it, but I'm gonna pull it out of you more. And I don't want to give away one of your courses, so to speak, but I'm sure you got some insights on it. If a child can fail without judgment, but there's consequences, right? You win or lose, whatever it is, and then they learn the lesson. Isn't that really what a big chunk of what you guys are teaching? Because you talk about the psychology component and teaching kids, because us parents, unfortunately, I don't think the kids have changed. I think the parents have changed. We're afraid to let our kids fail, right?
Yes, that is a trend that has been emerging probably since you and I were, youth athletes. This dream, or the dream of sending your kid and letting them play in college, and the pressure that parents have unintentionally can put on their athletes, their young athletes. And so it's important for coaches. Obviously you need discipline, you need to have standards, but it's also to remind ourselves, even as coaches who are leading young athletes, that failing is a good thing, especially at that level. If you think about it and you read some of the biographies of some of the most famous athletes in American history, all of them at some point had some kind of setback or a challenge. And then they recognized that challenge and decided themselves that they did not want to go back to that prior place. And that is always what pushed them forward to overachieve and become a great. And so there was always that some kind of challenge that they had, or a life event. And it wasn't so detrimental, but it was always like, okay, I've been to this, what they thought was like the worst place in their life. And then you can read about how their coaches, their family support all stepped in, and they all identified, like, we're not going back there. And so they all worked together into achieving success, and then being the greats. And even if you listen to like my hero Nick Saban talk, he always mentioned, in not so many words, you've got to let them fail to learn. And you hear that all the time. And so if a child never fails, then they're never really learning. And so that becomes an important component to being competitive.
The other part is, I think what you said is kind of interesting. I'm a big believer in youth sports. As we progress, it creates a sense of community, and success, like it's great, and I want to compete. I'm competitive, but when you fail, it tends to bring people together, and it can friendly fire. You can blame everybody, this and that, but if you got a good coach that pulls it together. And what's the lesson? What can we grow? What we could do better? All those different things. My hero, John Wooden, he said, success is a peace of mind of knowing you've done your very best. I bring that every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to be my best every day. And I'm going to fail every day. You know what I mean? But then another one, Joe Montana, fail fast, fail forward. Are you capable of resetting to make it better? But you mentioned something. What is there a defining moment for you? I know for me, 7 years old, my dad was gone. I had 3 older sisters. It was in the 60s, right? And my mom takes me out of the house and says, there's a baseball field. And Coach Islas was my first coach, one of my first male role models. That was a defining moment in my life. And I've got coach after coach after coach after coach. I can tell you these defining moments. You got any that you can think of for yourself, or that was like, you know what? Yep. I look right back to that.
I don't know if it was a single event for me. The competitive nature was built in my neighborhood. Aaron, I'm not gonna lie, I had the best childhood growing up, in terms of within a 2-block radius, there was 24 boys, and I was the youngest of the 24 boys. So if I wanted to compete, I had to become great and be able to compete at their level. And so, you're thinking, I'm playing football, and we played football, tackle football. And if you got tackled in the street, oh, well, that's what kind of happens. Right. But it was freshman in college all the way down to my little 7th grade self. And we had 24 boys, and and we played every sport by the season. So if it was football season, we're playing football. If it's basketball season, we're playing basketball. If it was baseball season, we were playing baseball. And so that was nonstop my entire childhood. That was the expectations in our neighborhood. So I don't think that was one single event that kind of propelled me. I think it was the infusion of competition and sports. And I learned to fail a lot when I was playing at that. I wasn't playing against my peers. I was playing against bigger, faster, stronger. Right. So you learn gracefully how to take defeat and how to overachieve and overcome those defeats.
Well, and resiliency. And
Yep.
And there are times you probably cried, wanted to quit, and came back, and they said, Ryan, there's no crying in baseball, right? It really is those that, myself same, that were blessed to grow up in the Sandlot era where you could go play till the street lights came on, right? And we did. Hey, George, remember, this is how we decided to pick teams, right? And then I get lumpy. I don't want lumpy. If I get lumpy, then I get those two. And right. And if there's only 9 of us, okay, well, 5 versus 4, we had a permanent pitcher. Pitcher's mound's good as first. Right field's closed. Whatever it is, we figured it out. We did some of this. We did some of this. But we figured it out. And since the kids don't get that, how do you guys feel? You got any ideas of how? Because that's really the psychology you're talking about, right? We have to help the coaches that are teaching these young minds. Jim Perry, one of my mentors, who was my camp director at Superstar Invitational Basketball Camp, wonderful human being, worked for the CIF Federation, just amazing coach. But he always said, my number one goal is to make these young kids good citizens.
Correct.
Right? And that's the deal. But when we talk about these things, and whether parents they're afraid to let them fail, or the focus is too much on winning rather than effort, right? Because for you, it had to been every day you went out there and they're throwing fastballs. You're 7th grade going against a college student. You're barely hitting it, let alone getting hit, right? So your success was just getting on the field, right? That was number one, right? Getting picked, maybe last, but you were picked, right?
I think I identified those as just not being picked last was good days for me. That was the little moral victories. And, but I think you're 100% right. And from what we're, and I don't know if it's science or if it's just history. The main cog for youth coaches is love. Okay. And mentorship. And I know there's a lot of inner competition for every coach they want to win, right? But the development aspect has to be the priority, the social, emotional, because in the end, now that I get to volunteer and coach, my wins and loss records doesn't matter to anybody in the neighborhood except my own personal pride. Right. And then, but I also have to remember that personal pride should never supersede what the kids are and how they're developing and what they're doing. So it is kind of like for somebody who like myself, who's just utmost competitive in everything I do. I have to refocus and shape. Okay. Are my kids better at fundamentals instead of, am I pulling W's on, in the record books, which nobody will ever see those record books. Right. And so that really becomes the ideology. And a lot of the youth programs where we're located at, that is preached daily. And you can really see a difference in different communities as the kids develop and go into high school programs, because the ones that the local leagues who harp on fundamentals and infuse competition, but make those fundamentals and development a priority, even if they're not the most athletic, those high school programs have far greater success than other city leagues or programs who don't harp those fundamentals, because when those kids get to high school, the kids with the fundamentals just pass them, no matter how athletic they are, right. Except for your extremes. But, you have your outliers, but it really comes down to the basics and harping on those fundamentals from
it's
early
funny
stage.
To me, too often as coaches, we've got a general idea, and then we get out there, especially when we're new and starting to coach, and then that inner competitive, I've got to win, and don't realize my first camp I ran in Southern California was with a guy named Magic Johnson, which I hope everybody knows who that is. And so we're there, and I'm the director of the camp, right? 400 boys are coming. I've got all these great high school coaches and all these people there, and Magic says, okay, what's the goal for camp? And we're talking about, we're going to teach fundamentals and we're going to teach determination and we're going to teach these drills. And he goes, wait, fellas, wait. With that big magic smile, he goes, it's win kids. And that's what it was about, right? Win kids. If you're coaching, especially if you're a rec coach out there, your goal, your job, your number one job is that they want to come back and play. So you got to win kids, inspire them to feel so good about playing sports, to become a good citizen, develop those relationships that they want to come back and play, right? That's the deal, right? That's the deal, right?
Yeah, and that is the focal point, and should be the focal point of all youth sports is, making sure that the kid goes home and feels like a winner every day. Right. Regardless of the outcome of a practice or of an actual competition. But that is part A. Part B is to make sure that they develop those relationships with not only other kids on their team, but within the organization itself, because the data tells us that the networking aspect, or the socializing at that level, is significant in keeping kids involved in youth sports all the way up.
Perfect. We're going to take a break right now. When we get back, we're going to talk about, because this is not socialism through sports, or maybe it is, but we're going to talk a little bit about competition, about multi-sport specialization, and the challenge of what's coming up. So let's take a break. Sherry, go ahead and run that. Thank you so much, Miss Sherry, and we'll see you on the other side.
When we talk about essential services, what comes to mind? Police, firefighters, healthcare, but there's another essential service, often overlooked, yet always present. Parks and recreation. Parks and Rec is health. It's the walking trail that lowers blood pressure, the recreation center where seniors fight isolation, the swim lessons that prevent tragedy before it happens. This isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. Parks and Rec is safety. A playground instead of a street corner, a basketball court instead of trouble. A summer camp where every child belongs. It's not just about activity, it's about protection, prevention, and possibility. Parks and Rec is community, the festival that brings neighbors together, the cultural event that teaches respect and diversity, the open space where a city breathes. It builds bridges where division once stood. It gives people a reason to gather, to connect, to care. And Parks and Rec is economics. It strengthens property values. It drives tourism through events and trails. It saves on healthcare costs. Every dollar invested multiplies, feeding back into schools, into safety, into growth. Essential service is not just about survival, it's about thriving. And Parks and Recreation is where thriving begins. In wellness, in equity, in culture, and in joy. Parks and Rec isn't extra, it's essential. For our health, for our safety, for our communities, for our future.
At DPRS Media Co., we don't just create content. We elevate community through storytelling. Now, we're proud to introduce the newest addition to the family. Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery, the podcast where champions are shaped, not just on the field, but in life. Hosted by National Academy of Athletics founder Aaron Locks. Youth Sports Mastery dives deep into how youth sports can empower kids, strengthen communities, and build leaders. From coaching culture to recreation strategy, and from player development to parent impact, every episode brings game-ready insight from the people making it happen. Youth Sports Mastery goes live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Only on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. And powered by DPRS Media Co. This is where purpose meets play.
I got to tell you, welcome back, everybody. Every time I see these, what we do in Parks and Recreation professionals, and you guys are out there on the front lines doing it. It blows me away, because we know that if a community has a solid Parks and Recreation department, it's got a fighting chance to have a great community, right? We see that all the time. And we're here with George of the United States Sports University, formerly Academy. And we're talking youth sports. We're talking about, man, that first 30 went quick, didn't it? It was like, oh, here we go.
It certainly did. It's
We're
fun.
there. So let's talk a little bit about the approach. So when you guys are teaching coaches, so those that are just kind of chiming in or learning what's going on, can you just tell me, if I'm a parent volunteer and I'm going to go coach, or I'm a high school coach and I want to learn more, how does that all work? Do I have to enroll in college, or can I take courses, or how does that all kind of give me the umbrella for me? Would you, George?
So I think it really is a personal decision on what level they want to get to. Obviously, I'm going to always advocate to, the higher level courses, and you can earn your degree in coaching, even a master's. But we have such a wide wealth of courses that are continuing education courses that individuals could earn CEUs and use those courses, and they're not college level, financial requirements that you need. So they're significantly cheaper, and really you can complete those courses in days, compared to putting semester long work, effort into it.
So, but if I want to get involved, like, can I get everything from how to deal with the emotional side of the games, deal with parents, deal with kids? I mean, is there just such a wide variety? Like, how does that all work?
So each course is developed in their own little special niche. And it really depends. So we do have psychology courses. So some of these courses are sports psychology that a parent could dig into, that gives them a understanding. We have coaching methodologies. So the spectrum is wide in terms of what you can learn. If you even wanted to learn about NIL, we have multiple courses written on NIL that you could take and participate in. So I wish I could tell you that the list was short, but I think we have something like 300 courses. Wow. That are in rotation at any one time. And it's been a lot of work, but it's been a fun journey. And so I don't think we have anything specifically like right this second that says the social, for youth sports, but all that content is within other courses that we already have published and put out.
Okay. So if they want to take a course, they can kind of read through, and there's a course description, and they can kind of feel if there's pieces of it. And it's not like you're going to go to a college for a whole semester. You can take these courses on your own time online and go forward from there, correct?
Correct. They're all self-moderated. You complete the online quizzes on your own, and basically, once you enroll in a course, it's no different than purchasing something from. I'm not allowed to say another, but anyways, from a retailer, and then adding that course to your shopping basket, paying for it, and starting it.
Okay, very cool. And if I take that course and I complete it, can I go back and view it later, or once I'm done? It's all gone?
No, you always have access to those courses. They don't disappear unless our computers disappear. But
we want that to happen.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen. But those are always there. And the nice thing is if you can use, if you needed a transcript for your employer or for future coaching, we offer true transcripts, through the same, transcripts that you would get your college degree from, like providers. And there's all sorts of ways to keep those records.
Awesome. That's very cool. So this may not be a topic, but I figured you're an expert, right? Why not? Let's run it out there. I'm seeing, as I travel this wonderful country of ours, and I'm reading and from National Parks and Recreation to California, to Texas, to Michigan, all over, there's a shift, right? There's this, my kid's 8 years old, but he's going to be or she's going to be a college athlete, right? So that means that they need to specialize, they need to play club and travel and elite at such a young age that what we're finding is that's part of what's been pushing kids to quit sports because it's not like what you and I had. We just played for the love of the game, man, right?
Mhm.
We wanted to play, and we're sucking the joy out of the game and turning it from a JOY to a JOB, right? So
Correct.
forget the university for a second. I want to hear from George. What's your philosophy on that in terms of just the whole concept of playing elite club travel versus rec? Because I'll tell you this for me real quick. I think we need more rec sports. We need more opportunities for more kids to play in an affordable environment that similar to what we grew up where everybody plays. That's my thought.
Well, I don't need to say anything because you just pretty much hit all the focal points. I mean, there are some there obviously the benefits of youth sports, the benefits of local regional competition is significant. But yes, there is this economic hidden pressure that some parents experience that their only goal is to help their kid get into college and play college athletics or become a pro. But what we do know from just years of data is that, first of all, the opportunities to become a professional athlete is less than 1% for most sports. The other part is that by specializing, there are physical limitations that you're placing on the athlete by specializing. They don't develop those secondary muscles that can support the athlete. And if you look at most professional athletes, they were all minimum 2 sports, if not 3 sports, throughout their entire childhood. And we've identified really that specialization really shouldn't even start until they're juniors in high school, if at that point. And so that is really when you want to kind of tune in, and just based on my personal philosophy and what I've read, is that is kind of the key metric area, that their freshman and sophomore year, that they probably haven't even decided what their true passion is or what their true sport is. And it doesn't really kind of click until it's their junior year. And even with kids that played one sport their entire youth career, we find that they actually they change their sport within that first or second year in high school. And so if you're not giving them the opportunity to explore these different sports prior to that, then usually, the challenge becomes, and then it becomes a JOB, because then it becomes the parent who are
we got a frozen
their child that they sent thousands of dollars,
Right.
And then you hit the other point. The other point is that, the local leagues are super important, because when they are affordable, then the level of competition that these kids get to play against is actually much higher than if they were in some superstar league or travel ball league that requires a lot of money, because of the economic disparity that could take place in the region.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Good. It's nice having academia, because you just laid it right out there. I just talked willy-nilly about it. You said, nope, stat. And I could not agree more. And I love the fact that you're talking about, because if you think about it, freshman and sophomore year in high school, you don't know who you are. By the way, I don't know about you guys, but I grew 3 inches from freshman to sophomore year. You know what I mean? So all these things are changing. So let the kids have this experience. My philosophy is that a child's body is an all-terrain vehicle. And if you don't let them play multiple sports, it's like taking a Jeep, put it on the freeway and 4-wheel low and go, yep, this is fun. No, go push it out there and try lots of different experiences and things. That's how they make more friends. They learn to develop leadership skills or empathy or all these other things, deal with success and failure. It's such a viable deal. And I'm not saying that club or elite or travel is the devil. I'm just saying there's a right time and a place to have those, right?
Absolutely. And one thing that we're starting to identify is also burnout. Burnout is, and this goes back to the discussion of why so many kids drop out, is that the pressure and the fact that kids who specialize tend to burn out from the sport quicker than a kid who plays multiple sports. And obviously, there's hundreds of factors that go into that, but that is a component as well.
There was a stat that I read not too long ago that if a child under the age of 13 plays a single sport 5 months in a row, and then does it again 5 months in a row, in another time period, they won't play their senior sports in high school because what happens is they're burned out. They played so much in that amount of time. It, like you said, it's no fun. For me, I always tell everybody, I like to eat steak. If you made me eat steak 365 days a year, I'd become a vegan, and I like my steak, So it's just, so we got to think about how important variety and all those things are to help these kids have a better chance of success in life. And the goal is to want them to keep wanting to play. I mean, there's a group over here in my neighborhood area here that is insane because they won the NorCal finals, a big deal, right? 14 girls on the team, 12 got offered to play in college, only 2 went. The other 10 said, I'm not doing this. I just spent from age 4 to 17 or 18. I'm not doing that. I just want to go be a kid,
It is unique, and that has been and I don't even want to say it's a new trend. I think that's always been prevalent. I just think that now that the research is catching up and starting to understand these trends, that they're becoming more visible and for us to identify and look at. But yeah, I mean, it is a significant part. The burnout is a true factor, and especially when you have a child who gets to that, late 8th grade through sophomore year, and their friend group might not play their sport, and that friend group plays another sport. And so there's still going to be a natural inclination to want to transition into another sport that their friends are playing. Yeah. And so they have that balancing act. So we always, or even at every school that I've ever worked at, and at the high school level, has always preached to all our athletes, even for parent, we have our parent information meetings. We want these kids to be playing multiple sports at least their first 2 years, just so they can experience and figure out who they are and what they want to pursue.
I played baseball, basketball, football, and as I got to my junior year and I started singling down to basketball when I wanted to play, I realized a bunch of my friends were playing on the badminton team. In co-ed badminton, and you're a junior in high school, okay, I'll play badminton, let's go have fun with my friends, but I ended up being pretty good. But I think if I would have played earlier, I was busy with a lot of other sports, as you know, but I love that because the social aspect of that is so important for kids to be able to feel like they belong to something, especially as we go through the wonder years from, going through it. It's such an important piece. Do you have any data or anything you want to share on the repetitive sports injury? I've got a little information on that, but I'm curious.
I didn't bring any stats on that, but I think it's pretty simple to find the injury rates for single sports athletes is significantly higher than multi-sports. Yeah. And that goes back to what I mentioned earlier, the development of their secondary muscles and even balance. All those play a factor in it. So it's an easy find to see those statistics.
Flexibility. Yeah. I know that Tommy John surgeries, Major League Baseball put a thing out a few years back. It's up like 700% Tommy John surgery. Well, if your kid throws the ball all the time, there's a chance that it's going to wear that muscle out, or that ligament's going to get messed up, wherever the Tommy John is. So there. All right. So
I don't know about your area, but I know in our region, they've actually set pitch limits, and this has probably emerged in the last 10 years. Yeah. Pitch limits for kids and how many pitches they can throw within a certain period of time, just to kind of limit that and reduce that injury, because that's a devastating injury. That's like, I think, worse than an ACL. Just the recovery is brutal. So. But
it's nuts. If you play travel, and even if they keep it, and then you come back and play, my guest last week said that he was actually at a game, and the kid just got done pitching in a tournament on Saturday, and then came to play the Saturday night game here, and they had him pitch as well, and 3 more innings. So he pitched 9 innings at 9 years old. You can't do that.
No.
Just can't do
and
that.
there's a parent responsibility, because we do know that there's a lot of kids who play for multiple teams within the same season at different levels. And especially the more gifted athletes, they might play at their normal age group and then play up. And that's where the parent responsibility kind of has to step in. Or if it's within the same organization, the 2 coaches need to communicate, because, the rest and recovery is essential for all athletes at that age.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in that, in the old days, I guess I'm old so I can say it, there used to be immediate respect for police, fire, military, Mr. Johnson down the street, coach, teacher, all of that. And I think we can bring that back through youth sports if the parents feel that, hey, Coach Minose is coaching my son, so I'm going to give him respect, and I'm going to value, and I'm going to tell my kids to thank coach. We're going to create that kind of a relationship. My assumption is that when I teach at the National Academy of Athletics, is the coach explains to the parents that I'll control when, where, and how long any conversation lasts between a parent and the coach. And oh, by the way, that first conversation will never happen with the child present, right?
I do think that is a fair idea. And that, listen, from a guy who's coached for 20 some years, that has pretty much been my model.
Right.
But then as I started to get a little bit older, wiser and bolder, I realized that, there is that idea of, or necessity of, yes, there should be some respect, but at the same time, it is so fundamentally important that the coach shows respect to the parents.
Amen.
And that is seen through how they interact with not only their own athlete, but all the athletes on the team, to earn that respect. And then most importantly is, a parent who wants to complain is going to complain. Right. And so my response has always been, I hear you. Let's think about this. And once usually they get that out of their system, then everybody gets to move on. So unfortunately, that's kind of like the unwritten, unpaid part of coaching. Right. But parents have concerns, even at points that we might not agree with them. It's important that you always hear what their perception is. You don't have to agree with it, but just understanding their perception goes a long way in that respect from both sides.
I learned a long time ago from a coach that I thought was a great philosophy. A parent is like a fire bell in school. If the fire bell goes off, we right now we're here and the fire bell goes off, we'd pay attention and we'd probably do something about it, right? We go outside, the fire chief comes and they check everything and there's no problem. We get back to the meeting, all of a sudden it goes off again. You're going, okay, wait. But they might have missed it, so let's check it. And then the third time we just tear the thing off the wall. And I'm not saying you want to tear parents off the wall, but I think to your point, we have to pay attention and listen. We're caretakers of the game and of their kids, right? I don't know about you, but when my daughter was playing, especially, coach, I'm watching you. You know what I mean? But as soon as the coach shows me they're organized and that they can give respect and they can show empathy and they have leadership and they're doing things in a way that is to build the kids up, even if it's not exactly how I do it, but they hold them accountable in a positive way. Right. So the sooner, if you're coaching out there, that you can get the training from the United States Sports University or wherever you get trained to understand that there's a right way to do this, to create the fundamental instruction and the boundaries for the team and go do that, the better chance there is for success. Correct?
That's true. And we've noticed that those characteristics that you just mentioned, like empathy and stuff like that, when a parent sees that, they are less likely to be critical on why did you go for it on 4th and 17. And so you get a lot more support because they identify that when they realize that your only goal is to show love the sport that you're coaching, but also help guide and mentor and coach kids appropriately and correctly. They're far less critical, and you can even see it just going and see it. I should probably one day conduct a study, but you could look and see just on the field that the coaches that are often most criticized are the ones who don't have that relationship with their players that the least criticized coaches have.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the ones that always amazes me is, so the game's over. We just lost a tough game or whatever the case is. The coach pulls him out to left field, sits him down, and gives a half-hour dissertation. These kids just played the game. They're trying to get to the snack bar. They want to be done with this thing. They're moving on to whatever's next. And this coach wants to break down. In the third inning, we didn't execute. Are you kidding me? Right? So I assume somewhere in your courses you guys talk about pregame, game management, post-game, all the different factors. Because I love that you're not talking about how to swing a bat or how to hit a curveball. Maybe you are, but more so, I would imagine, because I've seen and taken some, they're really more about the philosophy and how to teach, right? And that's really a big piece of this.
It is 100% the main piece of it. It's the methodologies that are involved, and you hit the nail on the head. If we just even look at, the cognitive ability of younger athletes, when that game is over, their brain is off. They have no focus, and so there's no bringing them back until the next session. So the next session is for the coaching. So if you feel like coaching is important, then that coaching should take before the game or before the event, and then you make minor tweaks or adjustments, like if you're in basketball or football at halftime. But when the game's over, it's like, hey, next practice, 8 p.m., we'll talk about this game on Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah. I've even liked a couple coaches, youth coach. One of my son's coaches used to do is the game would be over, bring them together. Hey, great job. We'll see you at practice. And then he would email the parents and said, read it to the kid. And he'd email 2 things, what we did great and what we want to work on. And he emailed it to them so the parents could talk to the kids about it. And then when he went to practice, that would be one of the things that he talked about. I thought it was great because it gave a chance away from it. And it's up to the parent to bring it to the kid. And it was what we did as a team great and what we did that we think we could do better. And I thought it was a really good approach,
That is brilliant. And I've never heard of that, but that's a great idea.
Yeah. So I stole it. Why not? But we've stolen everything good from other people, right? That's how you do
right.
it.
Good coaches are good thieves.
Yeah, into that, right? So, they say if you steal from one person, you're a thief. If you steal from everybody, you're an educated person, right? So
fair.
Let's go for that. So if I'm in charge of the local Parks and Rec and I am trying to figure out how do I get more parents to volunteer and create a better coaching environment for these kids, because like you said, if they have the love of the game and the basic fundamentals, and by the way, the best players don't always make the best coaches, right? Right.
Correct.
So you got any tips for people on that? We've got a few minutes left. Let's give some tangible tips, maybe that can help if you're out there as a Parks and Rec. Got any ideas on that one?
So fundamentally, we've seen that, and the structure is all from the top, in a pyramid. And so you obviously have the leader of the organization, but you always have like 2 or 3 key coaches. Mm-hmm. And those key coaches are the ones who are seen as leaders. And they're the ones who usually the newer coaches mimic. And we're not talking about X's and O's. We're talking about methodologies and stuff like that. So it's important once organization can identify those 2, 3, 4 key coaches, right, then those 4, those coaches actually work with newer coaches or parent coaches, and again, it's always the stress of the love of the game or the love of the student and not so much the X's and O's, because the X's and O's will take care of itself when they get to upper level. It is, do they have the fundamentals? Are they having fun? And if you can assure those 2 things, then your program is going to be 100% successful.
I heard the guy this past weekend said something about, in youth sports, particularly, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes. What are you doing to make those kids, right? I mean, that's kind of a great way to think about it. But I love that concept. So if I'm a Parks and Rec supervisor and I've got my league, I want to find the people that are the leaders, not even just the most successful in terms of wins and losses, but the ones who are perceived that personicate my style and what we want to come across as a league, and bring them in as the mentors and help bring it all together, right? That's what we're talking about, to kind of elevate the other coaches. Yeah, love that.
Yeah, if you think of a Venn diagram, At the far left tail, there's the group of individuals that will do whatever the leader tells them, no matter what. And then you have a third or section who are the ones that will question. They're not really sure. And then there's this small little gap of like 13%. So that 13%, that is the ones that those 4 key coaches need to identify that are under them, because once that 13% of coaches gravitate to the leadership coaches, 90% of the remainder coaches will follow and tag along. So that is kind of that Venn diagram playing out. And then you're always going to have the tail end on the right side or your left side, whichever way you're looking at it, who will not follow along regardless because they think they know better. But they usually phase themselves out when the collective understand that the main priority is to ensure fair play, fun play, and education.
George, I'm laughing because every time I talk to you, I learn stuff, and I'm gonna have to Google Venn diagrams. Remember, I know in high school I studied it out, but
is it a Venn diagram? Maybe it's not. I don't remember.
Yeah,
bell curve. Sorry,
it's no one of those. But I'm just thinking whatever one they are. I'm like, okay, well, I kind of remember that. But all right, hey, we've had our time, and oh my goodness, it goes fast. Do me a favor, if they are interested in finding out more about the academy, the university, or you, how do they get in touch with you? What do they do? Is there a website they go? You got email, LinkedIn, send you a carrier pigeon? What do they do?
They can go to usssu.edu. That is our main page. And then if they're looking for the continuing education courses, there is under academics, they can hit continuing education. But you can go to prostudies.ussa.edu. And that is where all our courses are listed that they can purchase.
Wonderful. Well, I highly recommend. Like I said, I've taken courses. I've seen it. We've worked together. A lot of the stuff that we pull together is what we use here at the National Academy of Athletics. And once again, grateful to you, George. Grateful to the team between all the help from the people behind the scenes at the podcast here and putting everything together. You guys do a great job, and we really appreciate the support. I'll see you guys next week where we'll talk more about youth sports and everything that we like to say here, which is to talk, teach, play, help kids fall in love with playing sports. That's our number one goal. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Roll it, Sherry. See you next time.
Every career is a choice, but few careers let you touch lives. Not once in a while, but every single day. Step into a park on a Saturday morning. You'll hear children laughing on the soccer field, families gathering for a picnic, seniors walking the trails, finding health and friendship. And behind every smile, every memory, is a Parks and Rec professional. We don't just mow fields, we grow confidence in young athletes. We don't just build playgrounds, we create safe spaces where childhood thrives. We don't just plan events, we design moments that anchor generations. Think of the coach who teaches patience, the director who champions equity, the staff member who sees potential in a child no one else believed in. Every day, Parks and Rec professionals shape character, preserve beauty, and strengthen community. And the path isn't easy. Budgets are tight, resources stretched thin, but the reward, unmatched. Because what you give comes back in legacy, in healthier communities, in lives forever changed. So why dedicate your life to Parks and Recreation? Because here, your work never ends. It lives on, in laughter echoing across playgrounds, in green spaces preserved for the next century, in the young professionals rising to lead tomorrow. This is not just a career, it's a calling, it's a legacy, it's Parks and Recreation. A message from the Parks and Rec community. At DPRS Media Co., we believe Parks and Recreation isn't just a service, it's the heartbeat of our communities. We exist to honor the people, the vendors, and the leaders shaping the future of Parks and Rec. Our mission is simple: to tell their stories, highlight their careers, and celebrate their essential work. Our vision is bold: to be the trusted hub where leaders, vendors, and communities unite, inspiring innovation, sharing wisdom, and building a stronger, healthier nation. Through over 220 live shows and 6 weekly series, the Leadership Series, Facility Maintenance, Young Professionals Network, Youth Sports Mastery, The Rec Room, and Growing Leaders, plus our industry-leading newsletter, the weekly Parks and Rec Post, we're building a media platform made for the Parks and Rec community. And now, we're inviting strategic partners to co-create this story with us. As a partner, you'll gain 12 hours of annual live exposure with custom shows highlighting your expertise, polished 60-second promos refined for maximum impact, year-round visibility with dozens of replays across our media network, premium features in our newsletter, and amplified social media reach across LinkedIn, X, and Facebook. This is your chance to educate, inspire, and lead while connecting directly with the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. This is DPRS Media Co. Let's build the future of Parks and Rec together.